Hey, Cut the Shit listeners. You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Go check us out. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Cut the Shit, a podcast series that aims to take a closer look at the impact of the IT industry, both the good and the bad. Cut the Shit is brought to you by Plow Networks, a managed IT services company based just outside Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Bryan Link, COO here at Plow, and I'll be your host for this series. I'll ask questions, and with the help of our guests, try to dig deep on some of the key challenges we all face dealing with IT. So with that, let's cut the shit and get started. On today's episode, I'm very excited to have Jen Cothron as our guest. For the past 5 years or so, Jen has worked in a variety of account management roles at Fortinet, a global leader in providing converged network and security technologies. Fortinet is a partner of ours, and Jen and her team work closely with ours when it comes to meeting the needs of a big chunk of our network services clients. I asked Jen to join us today because she has such an interesting story. She's now a 10-year veteran of the IT industry, but before that, she was in a completely different field. And I mean completely different. We talk at length about her past, how she made the transition to IT, and how she and Fortinet are helping clients cut the shit when it comes to buying their stuff. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Jen Cothron. Jen Cothron, welcome to Cut the Shit. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm great, Bryan. How are you?
I'm doing okay. You got Christmas going in the background. That's exciting. We're getting ready.
I do. I see. I think you got a little gift wrapping workshop in your background.
I do. It's that time. I got to go to Nashville next week. So Santa's little elves got to do some work this weekend to get ready for sure. So we're recording on the Friday before, I guess it's the 8th. So this will drop on Tuesday. So we got a few days. We're a few days in advance, but it's coming fast for sure.
It is.
So listen, before we get started, I always like to kind of, start with something a little bit just to kind of get us warmed up. So how about you give us an example of an interesting, use of technology or a hack that you've seen or heard or maybe experienced lately?
I don't know if I'll call it interesting. For me, total hack, total game changer in time, and maybe something that's been like a pet peeve or annoying to me. I've been using Teams in my corporate world now for the better part about the last 3 years. And within a Teams message, I finally just learned shift and enter buttons at the same time will allow you to space down in the message. So if you need, bullet points, rather than it 5 separate messages, now it's right there. It's that single message. May not be interesting, but for me, complete game changer.
Well, it's interesting to me because I didn't know that. That's it's been pissing me off for the same amount of time that you couldn't, start a new paragraph or anything, or at least I thought you couldn't. I guess I could have Googled it, but hey, keystrokes, right? In the world of AI, keystrokes.
There you go.
Still
you learned
matter.
Something today too.
That's right. Perfect. All right. Well, let's kind of get to the main event. To get us started, why don't give us a quick thumbnail sketch on your background and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely one of those individuals who has made the complete career change, life 180, if you will, in my professional career. Really, my original path was honestly collegiate athletics, kind of sport administration, YMCAs, that health and wellness side of our world, mission advancement. It was what I loved so much about the YMCAs. I got to marry the passion I had to helping people and bettering their lives, and then that health and wellness dynamic, growing up, being a college athlete, and coaching as well. But during the course of that time, nonprofit, anyone who is familiar with nonprofit or has worked it or even volunteer, you're giving a lot and receiving, financially or certainly quality of time. It takes up a lot of your time. And I had a lot of friends who were in medical device, pharmaceutical sales, but in general, the sales world. And every individual kept saying, you would do great in sales. So the long and short, the YMCAs got me down from the Northeast to Nashville and medical mecca down here. But ultimately, at the same time, Dell Technologies has a very large presence here. And in a brief time of being here, I ended up getting connected, mutual friend, with someone who was working at Dell Technologies, got to learn, and I could not believe their earning capacity in a 40-hour work week versus me working almost a 7-hour work week and 60 plus hours. So I decided to make the leap and got into it. And I will definitely say my first 2 months in that was my first true corporate world. And I had a lot of self-reflecting as, what am I doing here?
What have I done? Right.
I've wasted, am I wasting my, a master's degree? Or a graduate degree? What am I doing? And 2 months in, had that phone call, was covering kind of some mid-market partners at the time, and took a phone call. I'm working a project with this gentleman who kind of small mom and pop VAR, but he was up against HP. He was presenting Dell data center solution. And, he said to me, if I don't win this project, I don't know how I'm going to pay for my son's tuition this fall. And that was my silver lining right there. I knew I was able to change my perspective immediately to, being in the sales world, whether IT or not, I have the ability to truly help people, to still make a difference in their lives, obviously bettering their business, but ultimately, a better business is a better life, hopefully. Correct. For, the majority of people. So after that, Dell Technologies opened up my world to all things IT. And I knew immediately security was always going to be this space to be in. It was always going to be challenging, always going to be forever changing. And I liked that, kind of keep you on the edge of your seat. And so full circle, it brought me to Fortinet. Ultimately, I've been here 5 years now.
Gotcha. How long were you at Dell?
Was at Dell for 4 years.
Okay. All right. And had a stop in between at SonicWall. Is that right? I
did. Yeah. Okay. Just shortly after Dell had divested SonicWall, one of the assets, through the EMC acquisition.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Our stories parallel in a certain way. This podcast is not about me, but I still live every day. I've been in technology a pretty good while, and I still live every day with a gigantic dose of imposter syndrome, because I didn't grow up. I wasn't an engineer or a developer. I kind of sort of backed into it, and I console myself because I realize that no matter how good you are at whatever domain you're in, to your point, technology is the surface area is so vast that nobody can know everything, right? I mean, really what you need to be is a good learner, because there's always something new, and there's always something out there that you're not aware of that you either have to figure out or have somebody help you figure out. So, I came from the sports world for the most part too. I was a college athlete as well. So my dad's a football coach. That's my world. And so, it's interesting when you talk about this idea of mission, and how in the nonprofit space, which, I'm all for the nonprofit space, right? They do a lot of great things, but there's also sort of a perspective, I think, in the nonprofit space that for-profit people don't have a mission, or that it's not as legitimate. And I guess I don't buy that, right? I mean, because if that's true, then most of the people in the world don't have a mission, right? Because most people work at companies that sell stuff to people and try to make a profit at it, right? So it's at some point, that means all of us who are doing that are missing something. And I just think it's a different way of getting there. And it sounds like that's sort of where you ended up landing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think personally too, there's, everyone has different core incentives. I talk about this often. The earning capacity for individuals in many different spaces in IT, it's an opportunity to deliver a better quality of life to your family, or better quality of life to hey, you as the individual. And I see what drives me is my family, first and foremost. I'm definitely an achiever. I've always been, how can I raise the bar? How can I continue to challenge myself? And I want to be surrounded by people who want to do that, people who are driven to, change their business, work smarter, not harder as well. And, quite frankly, to me, it's what I want to give back to my family, or I want us to have all the adventures in the world, but have that ability to certainly say, okay, we want to take that trip when, not if,
Right.
we want to do that. Yes, I think there's a big stigma of, hey, corporate and sales greedy.
Yeah.
And that's the ugly side, unfortunately. And that's the unfortunate piece, that many of us who are very authentic, we are mission driven, often unfortunately get put into that bucket sometimes.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it's out there, right? I mean, that's part of
Yeah.
the, there's no question that's an aspect of it you have to deal with. So,
Yeah,
it kind of comes with the territory, I think, to a certain degree.
it
And if
does.
you can turn it to your advantage if you don't, because you can create an experience for customers and prospects where they're like, I've never dealt with anybody like this. This isn't what I thought this was. I thought it was going to, I thought there was going to be the, the tricks and the, whatever. And if they
Yeah.
see that, you can build credibility by not doing that, right?
Yes.
Which is sometimes is nice. And if it's like playing in sports, if your competition's not any good, if they're bad at what they do, if you can show that right on the field, well, you're going to win. So,
Oh yeah.
um, well, most of our customers are familiar with Fortinet, but before we go any further, how about you tell us a little bit about the company, and what Fortinet's all about, just for those who don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really, in a nutshell, Fortinet is a global leader in network and cybersecurity, best known for our security convergence. So, the security driven networking side. Um, Goodness, I've been here 5 years now. The future focus, um, and we've been publicly open about this. Yeah, I mean, tremendous innovations in security operations, AI, obviously cloud application. It's at the end of the day, you're going to work from anywhere. Your employees may be working from anywhere. You need to access that data regardless of where you sit, where that data sits, and we're securing that. It's such a privilege to be at a large global leader in cybersecurity, but most importantly, a true innovator.
Well, I do want to, you mentioned kind of the evolution over the 5 years, because, if you roll back 5 years ago, firewalls you would have probably been talking a lot about firewalls, and not that you don't talk
Mhm.
about firewalls still matter, but my sense is you probably don't spend as much time talking about that as you used to.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
not
that's a
not
big
even close.
change. And so,
Yeah.
so thinking of that as we, I just for my own edification, and I think our listeners would probably be interested in as well. What's sort of the sense of, as you look forward, you're a account manager at Fortinet, you're familiar with sort of the direction of the company. As you guys are thinking forward from an R&D perspective, where are you guys making bets? Where are you spending money at this point to try to be prepared for the next 5 years, when the reality is, of course, nobody knows what the next 5 years, none of us can fast forward to 2028 and know what we're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Fortinet has been open on that vision. As you said, I mean, our core competencies, number one in next gen firewall, number one in SD-WAN, and we're globally number one in OT, IT platform security too. Core competencies, and our innovations have been so heavy there. Very proud of those accomplishments overall too. Fast forward, I mean, it is such a complex, everybody knows the accelerations of, the work from home, especially through COVID. Well, working from home, that accelerates then the, cloud application, or the adoption of cloud, and that need to have, cloud delivered security. So you've got SASE. Fortinet has been the game changer in converging network and security on-prem. We're doing that. That's what SASE is in the cloud. So that future forward is going to be the organization's cloud is here. How is that going to play into your business, your users? SASE is a major area, but moving future forward, universal SASE. So there's very few companies, and Fortinet is one of just a handful that truly has the portfolio to deliver a universal SASE. And that's going to be connecting those other elements like switches and access points, and 5G, as well. But I mentioned that earlier, the security operations overall. Look, you guys know at Plow, I'm sure you hear it time and time again. You're an MSP, you're an acting, IT organization for a lot of businesses who can't afford full-time employees, can't afford a full-time SOC, group.
For sure.
So in all, that level of AI and automation, to be able to deliver a seamless experience, having your entire on-prem network or your cloud network, from core to wherever that endpoint, the data is sitting, one operating system, that consistency throughout. It's like a spider web. Take a spider, might be sitting way up in this corner, and a bug hits it all the way down here. And that spider senses it no matter where it is on that entire web. And that's like Fortinet's security fabric today. And all of that is extended through the SASE and all the elements of security operation tools. It's an evolution forward that the game of AI, it's crazy how much it's changing. I think this next decade for everyone is honestly going to be a decade of fear. How many jobs is AI going to possibly reduce? All that level of automation. Look how much Chat GPT has been a disruption, already.
Yeah, we're just figuring out. It's the definition of scratching the surface at this point, right? And we
completely
don't even know what we're doing with it yet.
No. And, there's been a lot of, I've read a lot about like robotic process automation.
Yep.
It's the prediction is about, 200 million jobs that could possibly take. Now, there's never going to take a job, fully away from individuals and the handwriting and needing to process, certain manual processes that those robotic automations aren't going to be able to take over. But it's going to absolutely change career paths forward.
Sure.
These generations behind us of what their education is going to look like. It's going to accelerate life as we know it. But those traditional jobs, and people are going to have to really change skill sets in so many different ways. So it's AI in every aspect of your technology suite. Machine learning, that's where all the advancements and innovations are into. And again, to have a simplified tool set to work with less people, greater ROI, but ultimately to, it's work smarter, not harder. And those are the areas that we're focused on.
Yeah. And I think, for a company like Fortinet, right, that's the opportunity is huge there because, when I hear you talk about that and I think about the challenge for a small company for sure, but even a mid-sized company, right, dealing with the need for security expertise, right, whether that's in-house or outsource, right? It's expensive. It's hard to find. Even if you can afford it, it's hard to find, and it's hard to integrate. Even if you can afford it and find someone, like integrate in the sense of making sure that capability, and I'll call it that because it's mostly humans, but it might not always be humans, can have access to that full spider web, and be able to sense everything, right? Because that's the risk is if there's a hole, well, it'll be found, right? And lots of companies have learned that the
Yep.
hard way
And I think
certainly
you
over the
hit,
last 3
you know,
years.
you hit another important point on, those integrations. Um, Fortinet being an organic company, building from that ground up, as I mentioned earlier, that single operating system throughout the entire platform, security and networking suite. That's from a knowledge standpoint. That's also the major skill gap, right?
Yeah,
Actually
for sure.
keeping and retaining skilled individuals trained on an unbelievable amount of security tools, and you got the networking side and the data
Yeah.
center side, you got your cloud applications, and whatever you're doing, you know seamlessly integrating and unifying that operating system. Makes it easier. Less people need to be trained for a lifetime, and again, the challenges that addresses for those companies who have a hard time retaining trained and skilled employees, and all of these different areas of technology.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, all right. So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you've been on the forefront of a huge learning of having to deal with a large learning curve, right? Given your background coming into Dell and then over the past basically decade, right? So you've been in technology for about a decade. It sounds like it's about right, I think.
Yeah.
How what's worked for you in terms of managing that learning curve? I mentioned, to you that, I've got this major imposter syndrome that I still carry around with me because I didn't grow up as a developer or an engineer, but I've managed to do okay by continuing to learn and
Mhm.
being humble about that because I don't know that much. I mean, I know a lot more now than I used to, but I still, when I talk to people who really know a lot, I'm kind of in awe of
Yeah.
their knowledge. So how have you handled that? Because that's been tough for me.
Oh my goodness. I think you said one, always be a sponge. uh, Always humbled. I am not the most technical person in the room, and navigating any of my gaps. I've been blessed at each of my companies to have an unbelievable amount of resources, but it's resources both internal and external. And this is where those partnerships come into play, without a doubt. So, that's a, you know, self-awareness. I know enough to be lethal in many areas, but I don't have the capacity to be the expert. I'll tell you what, if I did, I probably would be making seven figures and on a beach somewhere. But I stay in my lane of where I know that I can excel and be good. I'm extremely dependable. I have a lot of drive overall. Again, back to that, I really love seeing people, and for that matter, companies excel and reach their goals. Very goal oriented person. So helping align what they're looking for, what they need to do and improve, what they want, and me aligning, hey, every resource in my toolkit to do it. I am so not about reinventing the wheel. I got my engineer to do that.
Gotcha.
I have this person to go do it. I will say it took me a long time just in life to delegate. That right there, I think it was Shonda Rhimes who I got to listen to once, and she's creator of Grey's Anatomy, but so many other shows, and just an empire. And it was one of her biggest struggles. Was saying at one point saying yes, yes to somebody else doing something for her.
Right.
um you know wow, has that had to be years of learning. But I have inside support to generate certain proposals. They're young in their career. They may make some mistake. They're going to. Guess what? At one point in time, you were there. At
That's
one
right.
point in time, I was there. So yeah, the full circle, how do you stay successful? I absolutely believe constantly being a sponge, always learning. I never act like I'm the best person in the room. And it really is always a team. I've got the resources. Being extremely resourceful is what's helped me get to, where I am today, and to still keep my sanity.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So as you know, on this podcast, the name kind of gives it away, and it's a sort of a core perspective for Plow, right? Is how do we cut the shit on some of this overly complex technology, and very often
Yeah.
some of the sales stuff that goes along with it, right? Or delivery, some of the excess baggage that we tend to bring to the table as an industry, right? And we've been guilty of that too at times. So it's not, this is as much an admonishment for ourselves as it is for every, we're not finger wagging like somehow we don't have any complexity, because technology is complex. I mean, we recognize that they're not simple solutions to everything, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be striving for that. So I guess with that as a backdrop, when you think about Fortinet, right, it's a big company. You guys have a lot of resources, a lot of people, the potential for a lot of complexity, both internal and in terms of what you do customer facing.
Mhm.
Where are you guys putting your money where your mouth is as far as cutting the shit when it comes to a product perspective?
Oh man. I mean, for, you know, Fortinet's Trojan horse is manufacturing the ASIC. That processor, I mean, that's power. It's the reason why we had inventory through COVID, and had such a tremendous acceleration. But again, it's that is the Trojan horse, the foundation that 40OS just powers through our FortiGuard labs, are the breadth of our security, that unified piece. Putting the money where our mouth is, no one can hold a candle to us in that.
And in that sense, what have you done like over the course of your 5 years there? What's the product? Have you seen the product portfolio? Have you made active efforts to streamline and simplify it, or to make the pieces connect in a way that it's easy to understand? Or has it gone the other way? Have you felt like as an organization, you've had to proliferate to deal with more issues? Just curious. That's more of, I don't know, because I know what I know about Fortinet, which is, a slice of it. It's not the entire picture.
Yeah, no, in my 5 years that I've been here, I mean, what we do in a smaller tool set, what we do in a single SKU is sometimes 5 to 7 times more what another competitor delivers. So for us, again, it's simplicity. And as we have expanded and grown into the SecOps and the cloud application security space, all the AI, again, it's all complex, right? But in our true fashion, it's all, we deliver more. We deliver far more in less. We get companies far further down that marathon and faster, in fewer tools, fewer SKUs, better cost.
So how is that translated? What about the marketing kind of sales buying process? What's that look like from your perspective as it relates to something that is easy to engage as a client? And you can talk some about maybe the partner approach here as opposed to going direct. That's obviously an important decision that Fortinet has made.
Mhm.
Maybe talk a little bit about that as far as the overarching goal of simplicity. How does that factor in, I guess, is maybe the way I'm trying to phrase that.
Yeah, and I think if I follow that path, where you're going to, I mean, Fortinet has always been a channel company, recognized there, so that we support direct relationship, direct customers, but aligning with the partners who are, we're delivering the accelerated trainings, obviously professional services, but most importantly, for any vendor, not just a Fortinet, but any OEM out there, the more advocates you have, the more specialists you have, feet on the street with those partnerships, the more exposure, the more experience, and the more your technology solutions are being, delivered and used. It's building a big army,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and so the partnership in the channel for Fortinet, goodness, as well. Over the last 5 years I've been here, I've watched that grow rapidly and scale as well. And I mean, I have most certainly gotten to see the evolution of even Plow and their expertise and the growth and support around our technologies. Again, too, so many people are able to trust our technologies and use our technologies because they're being an engineering led company. I mean, what we say the technology does, it really does. Um, so yeah, so I think, the marketing adoption, at least in that aspect, is Fortinet has really evolved into larger engagements in the field as well. So larger sponsorships and partnerships on a global scale, PGA Tour, the Formula One race series. So it's, you can use our technology, but if you're not talking about the technology or seeing it from a larger scale marketing, that's how you're helping the company grow into an enterprise space.
And along those lines, I mean, with the channel approach and having the larger army, do you worry about message consistency? How do you and your job, as you think about your role and the partners that you work with, what's the challenge to keep them on message, right? Because there's always the potential for confusion or off message. Maybe that's a sanitized way of saying
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Saying something stupid or wrong, maybe it's a better way. Let's cut the shit on
What's
that, right?
what's that experiment? You got 10 people in a circle, you
The phone
whisper one
game, yeah.
thing.
Yep.
Yes. We're never going to get away from that, right? It's going to always be, that will always be a challenge.
Sure.
But communication and the amount, the level of engagement and communications. So the more closely aligned a partner and the vendor can be, repetition, overall. I think, every partner, every vendor, they each have their core competencies, as well as, hey, we also dabble in, these areas too. I think when two companies together understand who they are, what they're very good at, and where they can align together, that messaging can be developed and really streamlined. I think we all make it too complex. We always do. What's the hottest buzzword going on right now? Yeah, you got SASE, Universal SASE, Zero Trust, XDR,
yeah,
SecOps. Everyone's talking about it. And everybody wants, a piece of that pie. But it's communication.
Gotcha.
It's the
That's
consistency.
fair. I just curious because
And
at some point that it's the nature of that game, right? I mean, to your point, what are you going to do? Because it does have elements of the phone tag of the phone game baked
completely.
in. You can't get away from
Yeah,
it.
completely.
Let's switch gears just a little bit. Let's talk some about clients in terms of things you're hearing on that side. So in conversations with clients, what are they worrying about most when it comes to network technology? And I mean, in your opinion, are they worrying about the right things?
Goodness. That's a good question. And I hear so many different, I still sometimes today, it does amaze me at some companies that, although engineering knows, or the lower level technical team, what keeps them up at night is that security. Other sides of the business, maybe not so much yet, business leaders, but truly top two is security, that one breach. What I'm hearing about more today than ever is the board level of responsibility on cybersecurity. Now, this is taking it's a big leap and a big change, and is without a doubt opening up a lot more pockets for businesses to invest into technology, to truly see technology and security, for that matter, as a business enabler, not a business inhibitor. It's it's a way that they're going to make more money, ultimately. But yeah, I mean, it's still everyone is in such a different journey of zero trust, for example. One of the biggest and most talked about topics that we're discussing and we're hearing is some level and some dynamic of zero trust.
Yeah. Us too. I mean, obviously we had, we had our meeting about it, and although one thing we see, and it speaks to what you said earlier, right, is the problem with zero trust is it requires people to do stuff, right? It's not you guys don't sell a zero trust, a sweet little device that will magically make it happen, right? That's not the way it works. You've got, I mean, there are rules you can put in place, there are things you can do, but there's reactive and proactive things that have to happen for you to operate, with a zero trust, methodology, because it's not a technology, right?
That's what I was just going to say. It's a framework. Yeah. It's a methodology, just as SASE is. Absolutely.
So, just a couple more questions, but before I get to that, I realize I haven't even given you a chance to. You've sung the praises of Fortinet to a certain degree, but I mean, answer the question: why Fortinet?
Man, the convergence of security and networking. Consolidation without compromise. That's why Fortinet. Again, like, I'm not going to talk technical. If you want to work smarter, not harder, you're going to look heavily at Fortinet for your entire environment.
And in your mind, does that scale from huge to little?
It's best of platform today.
Talk to me about
not just best of breed.
Talk to me about that in the range of if I'm listening to this and I got a small company, 50 people, and I'm also listening to this and I've got 10,000 employees or 20,000 employees. Do you feel like you guys can scale up and down the chain at this point?
100%. We've been able to since inception. Misperception, big time, is Fortinet incapable of delivering to the enterprises. Fortinet established itself in two verticals: carrier, MSPs. In the MSP space, it had to be simple, kind of an all-in-one, easy to manage, cost effective for scalability, right?
Yep.
And then carrier, you had to push hella packets.
Yeah.
Right. You had to be fast.
Throughput.
So yeah, absolutely. So that unified ASIC. So you think about the scale of MSPs and how many customers you're managing. You're managing that entire environment from the whole stack in a single view. And then the power of pushing data, that core, those massive chassis. And all we did was bridge that together. So again, that power of building a platform and that scalability, we don't have a different operating system. If you're the highest the highest level, firewall, if you will, here, and the lowest level, it's one and done. And again, the power of the channel and the partnerships of an OEM, the ability and scale of where that's taking us, the doing more with less, and that simplification, a foundation of that operating system and everything that you can do with even just the FortiGate appliance. We've collapsed so many technologies in a single SKU. It is affordable, easy to scale, easy to manage, very rapidly. Again, all the way up.
Gotcha. Easy. I like, if you can push the easy button in technology, that's a strong sales pitch, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, bit of a curveball for you. You mentioned you've tipped your hand a little bit on it because you talked about it earlier, but tell us a little bit about your athletic career.
Oh man. Well, if you don't know me and haven't seen me in person, I'm stretching about as all 5'4" as I can. But I'll give the fun little story, because when I was growing up, where we lived, we were in such a rural area. We only got 3 channels. And one day, it was Michael Jordan's rookie year. And sure enough, dropped 63 points one night. And watching him, I was just in awe. And that was it. I got my bug. I did play a lot of different sports, but it was basketball for me. I was scrappy and feisty, one guard, so I was the pure point guard. Yeah, so I got myself to getting an education with my athletic ability, and I do joke all the time, because anyone else who does know me and my family, I'm all of 5'4", but I have 2 brothers, one who's about 6'5", and the other about 6'3", 6'4", and I'm the only one who got a college scholarship to play ball. So grit and hard work pays off. But yeah, basketball, a lot of people think I was like a softball player or soccer, my stature, but it was basketball.
And D2 basketball, right?
D2, yes, yes, played D2. I was gonna say, you guys know, I did not know you played football. I knew Mr. Bryan Law, baseball.
Yeah, no, I played baseball. Yeah.
Oh, you played baseball. Okay.
Yeah, Bryan and I actually played together. We played together in college.
That is the story.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. No, we both played high school football. We played high school sports against each other, because he went to a high school. We both went to high school in Nashville. So we played football. Well, we didn't actually ever play each other in football, but we played each other in baseball every year. He was a year behind me. But then we played together at Austin P, and then I played in the minors for a while after college. So, I love hearing sports stories and how people get there, because it tends to be a formative experience, I guess is the simplest way to put it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I had a near stop to my sport career. Broke my leg actually playing soccer in high school. I did the all year round AAU basketball. I needed a break. And then I broke my fibula in literally the bone in 3 pieces. So I got a nice plate and screws in there. And at that time, I'm talking mid late 90s. And it unfortunately was during my, that prime time. And this was back when you still had the VHS and you were making your own recruiting videos.
Yeah, they watched it. The best they could do was maybe a VHS. They had to come see you. And so, tournaments, et cetera, really mattered.
And at that time, I was a D1, I was not good enough to play at, University of Tennessee, anything like that. But I was a D1 prospect. I had some good recruits and good outlook. And man, prime time junior year, and I break my leg, and that left a few of those off the table. But the Division II conference I played in, man, they operated like a D1. They were the number 1, number 2 conference in the U.S. Division II wise, and it was just as competitive. The experience I had at D2 was phenomenal. Enjoyed every bit of it.
Excellent. All right, so we'll wrap up. As you look ahead, you think about the next couple years. What excites you the most when you think about that time frame?
I'll tell you what excites me the most is having school-aged kids. And people might think I'm crazy on that, but already I've got daycare texting me that I might have a child coming home today, with a temperature. So, no, I mean. Truly, what excites me is absolutely seeing my kids grow and develop, how I can help them. I ask people all the time, social media and tech with their kids and teenagers and how that is. And, honestly, I think what excites me is, I try to remind myself they're born in this era. We were born in different eras. Our parents all thought about the same thing. So rather than being worried about IT and what that's going to change and do for them, I'm excited to see, how advanced this is going to get and, what I'm going to learn from them.
That's
That's
a
the
good way of looking
mom.
at it. Yeah, that's a
That's
good
the
way of looking at
mom geek.
it.
What am
Well, I
I
mean,
excited about?
yeah, as I say, it's part of
A
that
new
learning
car.
mentality though, right?
I need
Yeah,
a new
so.
car. I need to trade mine in.
At the same time, what scares you as you think about that same time frame?
Uh, you know,
Same thing.
honestly, the same.
Yeah.
The same exact thing. So it's I mentioned that earlier, the like this next decade for the world, our personal lives and our professional lives. Um, all of this AI and advancements, the robotic automation, everything. I mean, like thinking about, 2007, I think, when the iPhone was introduced,
Yep.
to what we're doing on, we buy more, communicate more, not on the laptop, right here,
Yep.
on this darn device. Absolutely, like there is a fear of, my word, what are we all letting go? And the fear of authenticity,
Sure.
as a person. Like I think, being submerged in what we've seen, and, a lot of things circle, we see that, some of the 90s are coming back in style, and,
It's kind of
whatever.
scary. Yeah.
I have some albums that I don't even have a record player for yet. I need to, I need
You need to
myself
get
a
it,
little.
you got to get back to the 90s. You get back to the 80s on that with your turntable. That's right.
Yes,
Now that it's
exactly.
back.
So
Yeah.
I'm shopping. I need to finally get my turntable. But yeah, I think, what truly excites me, I also have, and I share with a lot of other people, those level of fears, how
Sure.
out of control is it going to get? But are we all going to lose our authenticity? Are we going to be self-aware to, focus on that, and to continue to be real people and
And
humans?
manage through this for sure.
Yeah.
To make that, because it's a great capability, but it's also great capabilities are sometimes dangerous, right?
Yes.
The way that is.
Yes.
Jen, on that note, I'm gonna let you get back to work. I really appreciate you being with us today. This was it was fun to talk to you. Obviously, you guys are a great partner of ours. We enjoy working with Fortinet. Haven't had anybody on from Fortinet, so glad to have you. Appreciate you doing this, and hope you guys have a great holiday.
Yes, you too. And thank you guys. Happy holidays. Safe travels to Nashville. May or may not see you then. But yeah, always a pleasure with you guys. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are enjoying the podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would become a subscriber wherever you get your podcasts. And if you could rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, that would really help us out. Or you can just go old school and tell your friends, your family, your colleagues, and hell, anybody else who you think might want to hear something like this to listen in. If you're on social media, make sure to follow us on TikTok at CutTheShitPod, all one word, where we post lots of clips from the podcast. And last but not least, you can also watch the YouTube version of the show on our YouTube channel at Plow Networks. Until next time, take care and have a great day.